Welcome, everyone, to the NOSR Webs podcast. Okay, someone is having a little fun with us today. But hey, you know what? This is still your favorite deep dive. And that means we're about to go deep, really deep, into a topic that you sent our way. Before we start, don't forget to check out those amazing offers in the description below. You won't want to miss them, trust me. Now, are you ready to dive in? Today, we're talking about the Akash Network.
Akash Network. Yeah, it's a really interesting decentralized cloud computing marketplace. It's been making waves lately. A lot of folks are realizing that maybe cloud computing doesn't have to be, dominated by the big players.
It's like finally someone decided to build an Airbnb, but for computing power.
Yeah.
You sent us a whole stack of articles on Akash Network, so obviously you're interested in this.
Yeah.
Maybe thinking about investing.
Well, there's a lot to think about, right? Is it legit? What is this AKT token all about? And can it really hit $20 like some people are saying? Lots of questions.
Big questions, and we're going to unpack all of them. But first, let's break down this whole decentralized cloud thing, like what makes it so revolutionary.
Okay, so with Akash Network, we're talking about blockchain technology and how it's used to create a decentralized marketplace for computing power. So traditionally, if you wanted cloud services, you went to the big players like Amazon or Google. But that means you're kind of stuck with their pricing and, whatever control they decide to exert.
So Akash Network is kind of like leveling the playing field.
Yeah, exactly. With Akash, people can rent out their unused computing resources directly to, users who need it. This creates a much more open and competitive market, which could potentially make cloud services way more affordable and accessible.
Wait, hold on. Let me see if I get this. It's like, say you have a solar panel on your roof, and you sell your excess energy back to the grid. But instead of energy, you're selling computing power. Am I on the right track?
You got it. That is a great analogy. And this is where that AKT token comes into play.
Yes, the AKT token, like the secret sauce that makes this whole thing work. Seriously, though, can you break down exactly what role it plays in this ecosystem?
Think of AKT as the fuel, the lifeblood of the Akash network, the utility token that powers everything. For one, there's staking. Users can stake their AKT, essentially putting it to work to secure the network. And in return, they get rewarded for their contribution.
So it's not just holding on to the token and hoping it goes up in value. You can actively participate in the network and earn rewards for it. Interesting.
Exactly. And the more AKT you stake, the more influence you have in the network's governance. It's all about giving users a voice and a stake in the future of Akash.
Wait, so owning AKT is like having voting rights in this massive decentralized cloud co-op. And you get paid for participating. Okay, this is getting really interesting.
Yeah.
But let's be real here. Is Akash Network the real deal? Or is this just another crypto pipe dream?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? The sources you shared highlight some pretty compelling factors that point to Akash's legitimacy. Let's start with the technology.
So they're not messing around with the tech, huh?
Not at all. They're using some cutting-edge stuff, like infrastructure as code, or IAC. This basically lets users manage their infrastructure using code, making things more streamlined and efficient. And they're also using Kubernetes, a leading platform for deploying and managing applications.
I bet our tech-savvy listeners are impressed right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the tech, but what about the community behind it? Are they building something, sustainable?
The community is definitely active and engaged. They have a very dedicated development team that's constantly working and innovating. Back in 2023, they even successfully tested something called the AI Supercloud, which shows that they're serious about moving forward and pushing boundaries.
Innovation is key.
Yeah.
With any new tech, especially in the crypto world, there's always the question of regulation. Are they playing by the rules?
From what I've gathered, they seem to be. While Akash operates in a decentralized manner, they're making a real effort to align with regulatory standards. This is a good sign, especially for those worried about the long-term viability of the project.
Right. And of course, we can't forget about market performance. How has AKT been doing out there in the wild world of crypto?
As of today, December 5th, 2024, AKT is trading at around $4.55. Not too shabby. Its market cap is sitting at about $1.13 billion. And get this, it's up 8.38% in the last 24 hours.
Wow, things are heating up. It seems like there's a lot of excitement around AKT, but we always have to add a little caution in the crypto world.
Absolutely. This isn't financial advice, and as always, you should do your own thorough research before investing in any cryptocurrency. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Crypto can be volatile.
Words to live by in this space. Speaking of investing, let's talk about those AKT price predictions. Some sources mention that AKT could reach $10 to $20 in the next few years. What's driving that kind of optimism?
Well, a couple of things. First, there are the overall market trends. If the crypto market as a whole keeps going up, that could lift AKT's price too.
Makes sense. A healthy crypto market is good news for AKT. What else are analysts considering?
Adoption and use cases. The more businesses and developers start using Akash Network, the higher the demand for AKT will be.
Classic supply and demand, right?
Exactly. And then, of course, you have the continuous development of Akash itself. The team is always working on new features and improvements, which could make it even more attractive to users.
So the platform is evolving, becoming more robust and versatile. I get it.
Right. And we can't forget the influence of those overall market trends. If the crypto market as a whole continues to grow and mature, that will likely have a positive effect on AKT's price as well.
It's all connected, huh? The fate of one token can be tied to the overall market sentiment.
Absolutely. But let's be realistic. Crypto is inherently volatile. There are no guarantees, no matter how promising a project seems.
It's a roller coaster ride, for sure. But that's part of what makes it so exciting, right? Big potential rewards come with inherent risks.
Exactly. But, let's play a little thought experiment. Let's say AKT does reach $10 or even $20, hypothetically speaking, of course. What would that mean for the Akash network overall?
Well, for starters, a lot of early investors would be pretty happy. But seriously, I think it would mean that the market is starting to embrace this whole idea of decentralized cloud computing. It would be a big sign.
I agree. It would show that there's a real demand for alternatives to those traditional cloud giants. People want options, they want control, and maybe a fairer system.
And that could lead to even more adoption, creating the snowball effect for the Akash network. Fascinating stuff.
It really is. But while those price predictions are fun to think about, let's not forget that Akash Network is about more than just profits. It's about something bigger.
Right. There's a bigger picture here.
Absolutely. It's about creating a more open, accessible, and equitable internet. It's about empowering people and communities, giving them more control over their data and their digital lives.
A vision of a future where we're not totally reliant on a handful of powerful corporations for our digital needs. A future where the power is more evenly spread out.
That's a future worth working towards no matter what happens with the price of AKT.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But let's bring it back to our listeners. What are some key takeaways from our deep dive into Akash Network so far? What should they be thinking about?
Well, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that this is still a pretty young technology. The decentralized cloud computing space is really just getting started.
So there will be bumps along the way. It's not all smooth sailing.
Right. There will be challenges, setbacks, but the potential is huge. Akash Network is pushing the limits of what's possible with blockchain technology, and that is exciting to see.
It reminds me of the early days of the internet. Think about how much the internet has changed over the years. From dial-up connections to social media and smartphones, it's a constant evolution, a constant process of change and adaptation.
And with blockchain tech and decentralized platforms like Akash, I think we're at the beginning of another big shift in how we connect with the digital world. The possibilities are mind-boggling.
It is a brave new world out there, and we're the ones shaping it. But for now, we need to take a quick pause. We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our deep dive into Akash Network. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the NOSR Webs podcast. I'm still kind of chuckling about that. Anyway, before the break, we were getting into the details of AKT's tokenomics, the maximum supply, circulating supply, all that. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. But it's really important, right, to understand these fundamentals. For anyone thinking about investing in AKT, or any cryptocurrency, really, it's not just about, following the hype.
Absolutely. It's about making informed decisions, going beyond those headlines and getting into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. So back to those price predictions. We talked about how some sources think AKT could reach $10 or even $20 in the next few years. That's pretty bold.
Yeah, it definitely catches your attention. But what are these predictions based on? Is there anything to them?
Right. Is there any real substance behind them?
Well, like we discussed earlier, a few things could drive AKT's price up. Increased adoption, for one. The more businesses and developers that use Akash Network, the greater the demand for AKT.
It's that supply and demand thing again. Economics 101.
Exactly. Then there's the continuous development of Akash Network itself. The team's always working on new features and improvements, things that could make it even more attractive to users.
So the platform itself is constantly evolving, becoming more robust and versatile over time.
I see. Right. And of course, we can't forget the influence of the overall market trends. If the crypto market as a whole keeps growing, that will likely boost AKT's price too.
It's all interconnected. The fate of one token can be tied to the broader market sentiment.
Absolutely. But let's keep it real. Crypto is volatile. No guarantees, no matter how promising a project might look.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. But hey, that's part of the excitement, right? Yeah. Big potential rewards always come with risks.
Exactly. Okay, let's do a little thought experiment here. What if AKT does reach $10 or even $20? Hypothetically, what would that mean for Akash Network as a whole?
Well, a lot of early investors would be doing a happy dance. But on a more serious note, I think it would be a clear sign that the market is really starting to embrace this idea of decentralized cloud computing. It would be a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. It would demonstrate a real tangible demand for alternatives to those traditional cloud giants. People are looking for, more options, more control, and maybe a fairer system.
And that could lead to, even wider adoption, creating this kind of snowball effect of growth for Akash Network. Interesting to think about.
It really is. But, even though those price predictions are fun to speculate about, I think it's important to remember that Akash Network is about more than just, potential profits. There's more to it.
Right. There's a bigger picture here. A bigger mission.
Exactly. It's about creating a more open, accessible, and equitable internet, empowering people and communities, giving them more control over their data and their digital lives.
A vision of a future where we're not entirely reliant on a handful of, powerful corporations for all of our digital needs. A future where the power is more evenly distributed. A future that's, more democratic.
And that's something worth striving for, regardless of what happens to the price of AKT.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back to our listener for a moment. What are some key takeaways from our deep dive into Akash Network so far? What are the big things they should be walking away with?
One of the most important things to remember is that this is still a relatively new technology. Decentralized cloud computing is, it's still in its early stages.
There will be bumps in the road, challenges along the way.
Of course. There will be setbacks. But the potential, the possibilities are enormous. Akash Network is pushing the boundaries of what we can do with blockchain technology, and that's exciting to watch, to be a part of.
It kind of reminds me of those early days of the internet. Think of how much it's changed, from dial-up connections to social media to smartphones. It's been this constant process of, change and adaptation. We've come a long way.
And with blockchain tech and decentralized platforms like Akash, I think we're seeing the beginning of another major shift in how we use and interact with the digital world. The possibilities are really mind-boggling.
It is a brave new world out there, and we're the ones shaping it. But for now, let's take a quick pause. We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our deep dives into Akash Network. Don't go anywhere. And we are back for the final part of our deep dive into Akash Network. It's funny, we started with that whole NOSR Webs podcast thing. Someone's got a sense of humor.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but it kind of fits, right? Akash Network is all about shaking things up, changing how we think about cloud computing.
It's like they're saying, hey, we're here to turn things upside down. And speaking of turning things upside down, have you seen those offers in the description below?
Oh yeah, those are definitely worth checking out. Some great stuff for our listeners.
Seriously, folks, don't miss out. But before you go running off to grab those deals, let's wrap up our Akash Network deep dive. What are the big takeaways here?
Okay, let's put it all together. So, Akash Network is a decentralized cloud computing marketplace. It uses blockchain technology to create this more open, more efficient, and cheaper alternative to those traditional cloud services.
And right at the heart of it all is the AKT token. It's used for staking, governance, and value exchange within the Akash Network. It's not just some, speculative asset. It's a key part of how the platform works.
Exactly. We talked about those factors that could push AKT's price up both short-term and long-term. Market trends, adoption by developers, and the constant evolution of the Akash platform, it's all connected.
We also talk about the bigger picture, the potential impact Akash Network could have on the internet as a whole. Shifting the balance of power, giving individuals more control, fostering a more decentralized digital landscape. Big stuff.
It's a bold vision. And as with any deep dive, we've only scratched the surface. There's always more to learn and explore when it comes to Akash Network and this whole world of decentralized technologies. It's constantly evolving.
It's a journey, right? And the destination keeps changing.
Exactly. The beauty is in the exploration. And that's what we want you to do, dear listener. Keep researching, stay curious, ask questions, and never stop learning. That's what it's all about.
We are swimming in information these days. It's up to each of us to be discerning, to dig deeper, and to form our own conclusions. That's the key.
And maybe one day we'll come back for another deep dive into Akash Network. It's a fascinating project, but for now, we'll leave you with a final question to ponder, something to think about.
All right, hit me with it.
If cloud computing is the future, will we see more decentralized platforms like Akash? Will there be a shift away from that centralized control and towards a more distributed, community-driven model? It's a big question.
Lots to think about there. Well, folks, on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of, well, you know what it is. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.